The first thing your party finds after escaping Scythicus isn't a monster or a ruined castle, but rather a warm village feast. This next adventure is called Terror in Tepest, and it follows directly on from the Raven shadow figure escaping the zombie-clocked corpse. Because the characters have already seen that these ravens aren't just birds, they are pieces of corruption, carrying darkness from Scythicus into other domains of dread. And the first one has landed in Tepest, in a small farming village called Oatmarsh. Tepest is already one of those beautiful Ravenloft domains that works great for folk horror. It's not gothic castles and velvet capes. It's muddy fields, old customs, harvest rites, suspicious villagers, nice food on the table, and that feeling that nature itself is watching you from the hedges. So when the mists open, don't begin this like a standard quest. Don't just say, and you arrive in the village. Make it feel wrong because it looks right. The mists thin around the characters, and instead of corpses or ruins, they see dusk settling over a peaceful farming village. Oatmarsh is small, self-sufficient, old-fashioned. There are low cottages, smoking chimneys, wet fields and rough wooden tables set out in the village square, and villagers carrying plates of food like this is the most normal evening in the world. After Scythicus, after the Shadow Raven, this should feel almost too kind. This is High Harvest, a week-long celebration of everything nature provides. Each night the villagers feast, and at the end of the week they burn a figure representing famine. This ritual is meant to keep the hunger away all through winter. The villagers aren't evil, they're not cultists, they're just ordinary people, clinging to tradition in Tepest because that's how you survive. A young woman with straw-coloured hair, tucked beneath a red kerchief, spots the party and immediately smiles. This is Viviana, though everyone calls her Viv. She calls out to them, delighted to see travellers, and says they're just in time for the meal. She tells them to sit, eat, rest. And as a DM, you play this warmly at first. Let the party breathe, let them feel the contrast. The smell of stew, fresh bread, roasted vegetables, cider, smoke from the fire. Villagers laughing a bit too loudly because they're proud of their little festival and because no one wants to admit that they're nervous. Viv hustles the characters to one of the tables, and during the meal, the villagers ask the party questions. Where have you come from? Are you lost? Did you see the mists? Have you heard anything strange on the road? And in return, the villagers will explain Oatmarsh. It's a simple farming village in Tepest. They live by their own work, their own harvest, and their reverence for the mother. This is High Harvest, and every night they feast until the final night with the ritual burning of famine. Now yes, I did make a similar video in Ravenloft Play Along Pack, so if you're having deja vu, we're kind of doing that again. So this is where you can seed unease without derailing the written encounter. A child might stare past the party into the mist and say, I saw a blackbird earlier. An older villager sort of quietly shushing them. Someone might mention that the harvest figure isn't ready yet, because several villagers went ahead and haven't come back yet. At first, everyone pretends that there's nothing going on. Maybe the workers got delayed. Maybe those guys are drinking, or I guess finishing the decorations. But Viv is getting worried. At the end of the feast, Viv asks the characters for help. Several villagers were sent to prepare the ritual site an hour away. They should have returned by now. If I give you 50 gold pieces and she pays up front, will you go and see what's going on? By paying them up front, she's showing them that she trusts them, therefore they might trust her. So that's a lovely little detail. Use it. It tells the players what kind of village this is. These people are not hardened adventurers. They are villagers who believe that if someone eats at your table, they owe you decency. Then, hopefully, your party travels to the ritual site. This is where the tone starts to change. The path out of Oatmarsh feels narrower than it did on the way in. The fields become darker. The sound of the feast fades. Mist gathering between the trees. Maybe the party hears a raven call overhead, but they can't see anything. The smell of nice cooked food is replaced by damp earth. And then the characters arrive. They find the site described in the adventure. A dilapidated farmhouse. The ground is covered in blood. Nearby, a short stone wall surrounds a strange-looking tree, lit by a weak campfire. A hobgoblin stands in front of the farmhouse, and 5 bugbears wait nearby. The hobgoblin opens the farmhouse, but the building shows no sign of habitation. This hobgoblin captain is called Grieve, and those 5 bugbears are her guards. They were summoned here by Burla, the corrupted druid, who told them they could move into the area because the food was plentiful and monsters were rare. When Grieve Grieve and the bugbears arrived, blood was already here. They're not innocent in the moral sense, but they're not responsible for the missing villagers. The enemies begin hostile. Grieve tells the characters to leave because this area belongs to her now. Now, the adventurers have the potential for social roots, and not having this be a fight kind of makes it a bit more varied. You know, if you've got a character who wants to use an influence action, a charisma check, you know, using deception or intimidation or persuasion, then Grieve and her bugbears become indifferent. They still refuse to leave, but they explain their side. They claim that an elf told them this area was abandoned by people. That part is a lie because Burla told them what they needed to hear, and the characters might persuade Grieve and that lot to leave peacefully and make Grieve rough and annoyed rather than cartoonishly evil. I don't know. She's looking at this blood going, wasn't us. Blood was here when we came. Elf said the place was empty. We wanted food, walls and no trouble. She truthfully denies any interaction with the missing villagers. If the party does fight, play the bugbears as brutal opportunists. They use the farmhouse and the darkness to close the distance. They don't want pesky people telling them what to do. So once Grieve and their friends are defeated or talked down, whatever, the characters hear noises from the direction of the strange tree. Grieve does carry loot, 100 gold pieces, 2 potions of greater healing, and a spell scroll of invisibility. Maybe if the social situation has her talked down, then she can say, oh yeah, as a peace offering, throw down a potion. So they still get a reward for talking her down. Then they go over and look at the tree. Looks like a tree grown weird. Fruit hangs from its limbs, but it seems to be somewhat covered in shadow as well. The bark looks like stretching skin. The branches twist like fingers. Then getting closer, they realise this isn't fruit at all. They are death's heads. When they're this close to the tree, Burla turns up. She's an elf with bronze skin and unkempt green hair. She created this tree using the power offered by one of these shadow ravens. 8 death heads hang from this tree, like grisly ornaments, each one wrapped in a corrupting shadow. So this is kind of the horror centrepiece of this session. Burla is what happened when a shadow raven lands in a place full of harvest rituals and twists the harvest into something vile. The missing villagers have been used as offerings to the tree. Burla might say, the villagers have grown soft. They burn a doll and call it a sacrifice. She has made a real offering. She has given the mother blood and fear. Now the Shadow Raven might speak through Burla in a voice like wings scraping against bone. Mechanically, the adventure has a nasty little effect. A character reduced to 0 by the Death's Head has their own head replaced by the one that knocked them unconscious. You roll on a table and determine the new head's appearance. The change is permanent, but it doesn't have to change the character's abilities or anything. That is pretty wild, and I don't think you should skip that bit. It's a very memorable thing of this session. You know, a character might end up with a giant lizard head with one eye, or a trolls with writhing hair. Now, because this can be quite a big permanent change, I'd warn the table before the campaign or session if you think they need to know that this contains body horror. You don't need to spoil it, but in today's age you need to check that everyone's comfortable. If your table loves that sort of thing, this will be brilliant. If not, you just make it curable with strange powerful magic. Probably once you've defeated all these ravens, these 4 ravens, or by doing a wider Ravenloft event. Imagine the Death's Head slamming into the characters. And when they get up, they're breathing, they're alive, but their face is gone. Something else is there now. So, you know, fight ensues, defeat the tree things, defeat Burla the druid, read or paraphrase the conclusion. A dark shadow rises from the defeated enemies. It takes the form of an enormous dark raven, but before it can fly away, it dissolves into nothingness with a cacophonous core. They just destroyed one of these raven corruptions. There's 200 gold pieces to be discovered, a quiver of Elona holding 10 pieces of +1 ammo, that's cool, and a cloak of elven kind. That's a strong reward for a, 90-minute session? But it gives you a nice visual. I imagine they go back to the village and people are appalled if one of them's got a different head. Viv might try to be kind but physically flinch. Children will stare, you know what they're like. Maybe a priest whispers that they've been touched by the famine. Maybe this ritual does actually go ahead of burning famine away. Somewhere far away another raven calls. One has been destroyed, but there were more. That zombie clock corpse didn't just release one, did it? It released a flock. And the next part of this is Death in Darkon. I'll see you next session.